Welcome to the Red, White, You podcast. That good-looking guy you see on camera here with me is a good friend. Not only has he made that jump to the NHL, but he is the voice of the Seattle Kraken, the radio voice of the Kraken. Ladies and gentlemen, Everett Fitzhugh.
Wow. The introduction from the pride of Buffalo, New York, now Allen, Texas's adopted son, Tommy Daniels. Appreciate that, man. How we doing?
You know what? First of all, we're Kraken fans around here, buddy. We love the Kraken. We're so proud to be the first ever ECHL affiliate of Seattle. I know that's probably a neat thing for you too, since a little taste of the what they called the coast at one time. Tell us about, if you would, because that jump. Players talk about it all the time, Fitzy, and what it's like to go from the ECHL to the American League, from the American League to the big show. But for a broadcaster, you're doing your game, right? I mean, you're the same prep you've been doing, for 15, 20 years. But that first time you open up the microphone and you realize you're about to call a game in the NHL, I've never been shy. I don't think I've ever been lost for words. But wow, that had to have been pretty special.
Oh, yeah. It was, for me personally, it was great. So I don't know if folks know this or not, but at the very beginning of the season, I was out with COVID. So I missed our season opening 5-game road trip. So I missed the first ever Kraken game in Vegas. And then I missed games in Nashville, Columbus, New Jersey, and Philadelphia. I got back in time for the home opener though. And to be able to call the first home game in Kraken history, the first game in Climate Pledge Arena history, the first goal in our building was definitely special. It was definitely something special. And it still puts me kind of in a loss of words to be able to say that I get to do this for a living. I've been a part of the first hat trick. I've been a part of the first win. You know what I mean? Or first home win rather. So many different things that are going to happen, that have happened. To have my name and to have my voice attached to them as a small piece of this organization is so cool. And I don't think it's ever really going to hit me until it happens, right? So what does it feel like to be the inaugural voice of a team? I'll tell you next summer, like when I've gone through the whole season and I've gotten all of that out of the way, you know what I mean? But so far, man, Tommy, this ride has been fun. It's been a complete joy and an honor to be in this seat. And I'm looking forward to more great times ahead.
Can you give us a little sample of that first goal call in the show?
Oh, I kept it really simple. It was just, he walks in, shoots, and scores the first goal in Climate Pledge Arena history. I kept it very simple because again, you don't want to be the one to screw it up, right? Like that call's going to live forever, and you don't want to be the guy to screw that one up. So I made sure to keep it real simple.
I remember people ask me, for those championship games, did you have something planned? If you want it or whatever. And I'm like, no, I mean, you can't, because it's what's going to come to you. And good for you. I mean, that's so cool. You kept it simple. You got it done. I mean, and sometimes those simple calls are the best ones.
Yep. Yeah, those are the best ones. And those are the ones that folks remember. Everyone always asks me, do you have a catchphrase or I'm not really a big catchphrase guy because like you said, every moment is different. Every moment calls for, as broadcasters, every moment calls for a different inflection, a different amount of passion, a different amount of flair, whatever the case may be. So it's a little tough to kind of have a set, call and like I look at guys like Mike Lang and Rick Jenneret and some of the greats to have ever picked up a microphone and they're the ones who they have their phrases and they can pull them out and it works so well. unless you're one of those guys, you know, at this point, you're only duplicating or imitating, you know, and I think for me, I want to try and carve my own path, and, you know, those guys are legends for a reason. And I want to try to create my own path. So I'm not a big catchphrase guy, but if I ever have one, you'll be the first one to know, Tom.
So have you met anybody since you've been in Seattle and in the NHL? Have you met anybody that just kind of a little bit starstruck?
Oh man. I say this in a really humble way. Throughout my career, I've been very fortunate to have met a lot of great people. We're taught, we as broadcasters and media folks, we are taught, act like you've been there before, no cheering in the press box, that kind of thing. So to say starstruck would maybe be probably not accurate, but when I had we were in Vegas over the last weekend, and I was standing outside of the Golden Knights practice facility waiting for our team to skate, and then there was Ron Francis. Now, Ron Francis and we've had coffee together, and we work together. But I think, you know, to be able to sit and just say, like, I get to talk to Ron Francis, the Ron Francis, send it whenever I want, right? That's kind of cool. I think probably one of the coolest aspects of my job is that I get to speak with and learn from John Forsland every day, sit with him at practice. You know, I've had him critique my goal calls and stuff like that. And, you know, as far as starstruck goes, I think that would be someone that is one person that I just respect so much. I've been a fan of his for so long. And to be able to say that, yeah, me and John Forsland talked today. Like, first of all, weird flex like that, you know what I mean? Like, but to say that, yeah, John Forsland and I, you know, shared a glass of wine and we're talking about hockey, or we sat next to each other on the plane and talked about this, that, and the other thing. It's so amazing and awesome to be able to say that on a daily basis. But luckily, you know, act like you've been here before. So I haven't gotten super duper starstruck, but I don't know. Maybe a time will come, but we'll see. We'll see.
Well, and I remember you told me the other day when we talked on the phone, and you said, "Hey, look, I'm a high energy guy, so fans got to get used to it." But that's one thing I love about you is you're doing your style. I mean, we all have somebody that we grow up listening to that we kind of emulate a little bit, and then you kind of make it into your own. But you are who you are. You know what? And people, you know, 10 years, 15 years down the road, wow, you know, that Fitzhugh, if they're calling you Fitzhugh, I'm sure they are. That Everett Fitzhugh call, that was incredible because, you know, you mentioned Rick Jennerad earlier, and I remember, you know, there were certain goal calls, you know, growing up in Buffalo that I remember when I was a kid, and, you know, he's making these calls, and I'm like, holy cow, you know, that's amazing. That's what I want to do someday.
Yeah.
And, you know, people are going to be, do you ever think about that? People are listening to, I mean, not just, you know, it is in the ECHL. You might have, you know, a couple, 200-300 people that listen to you on a given night. But, you know, you ever think about all the people that are listening to you now, and you're like going, okay, wow, and a lot more people. The microscope is over me a bit, just, you know, more because, you know, you're doing it at the highest level. Yeah. Which is just so cool.
Yeah, the support's been great. I've had so many people, you know, either tweet me or DM me or get a hold of me another way, saying that, man, Everett and my partner Dave Tomlinson, who used to be with the Vancouver Canucks, he's now come on this side of the border and is on this side of the rivalry now as the radio color analyst. But they've said, oh man, you two sound great together. I'm loving the energy. I've had a couple of folks say, you know, hey, his energy isn't for me, and that's fine. I understand that. I know that I'm a crazy out there, you know, I'm not short on volume and I'm not short on passion. So you're going to get both, but it's been cool. It's been really nice. A lot of folks have said very nice things, and they've been very welcoming to me. A friend of mine the other day shot me a message and said, yeah, I'm driving home from my friend's house and I turn on Sirius XM and there you are. And I was like, wait a minute, I know this guy. So to say that I'm on Sirius XM NHL Network radio games, and like that's a very humbling thing, because 2 years ago, I was driving home from Cyclones games, listening to the late game and listening to Jack Michaels and all these guys do it. And now to say that I'm one of the guys doing it, man, it's again, such a very cool experience to say I get to be one of the 64 voices in the NHL that is responsible for bringing their fan base hockey.
Everett Fitzhugh, the radio voice of the Seattle Kraken, of course, the Allen Americans, the ECHL affiliate. So great to get Fitzy on this afternoon, if you would, because it was such a great story. And it's been a while since we did the other podcast. Share with everyone what it was like when you got that call and you found out that you got the job.
Yeah, it was great. The interview process took, 4 months during the pandemic. So the Cyclone season had just ended. Unfortunately, I was furloughed. I had been in touch with the Kraken earlier in the year. And then the pandemic hit and all that stuff, everything went sideways. So we resumed the conversation in May, and over the course of a few months, I got my interviews out of the way. And then I got the phone call last July. My wife is sitting there with me. And we're just looking at each other. We're like, we're going to the NHL. We're doing this. We're going to the NHL. So, she was obviously so supportive. And then the first call I made was my mom. Of course, I had to tell my mom, and my mom was so happy. And, my mom's never been a big crier. Like if she's happy, she's happy. So, Shelly's like in tears and she's like, oh my God, I'm so happy for you. And my mom was like, all right, my son going to the NHL. Okay. So, but she was just so happy. And then obviously the first person to call me was the head coach of my alma mater right over my shoulder there, Ty Eigner, the head coach at Bowling Green. He was the first person to call me, and I'll never forget what he said. He said, man, I'm so proud of you. And this accomplishment is just as big and just as important as if it were one of our players making it to the NHL. So the support and everything that I got on that first day was great, but it was really cool to share that experience with my wife, to call my mom, after the interview process and all of that. And we packed up our little apartment in Cincinnati and hopped on the road and landed here in Seattle back on October 1st of last year.
Below Zero Cryo, whole body cryotherapy stimulates the body's natural healing abilities through exposure to extreme cold. Cryotherapy was developed in Japan in 1978 as a treatment for rheumatoid arthritis. Over the past 3 decades, it's become even more popular as its performance-enhancing and general health and wellness benefits have become more well-known. Call Below Zero Cryo for an appointment today. 469-362-8191. Below Zero Cryo is located at 8715 Lebanon Road, Suite 400 in Frisco.
And you're going to get a chance to call a game with your mom in the building.
Yep.
Coming up, going to Detroit soon. Mom will be there along with a lot of family and friends in a suite. You're going to bring her up to the broadcast booth?
Oh, I definitely will. But Mom already told me. She said that she rented one of those like gondolas, those like 10-person kind of group suites. So I'm going to have some family in there. But no, Mom is definitely going to be riding shotgun for at least a period in the broadcast booth. So it'll be really exciting to get her up there. We're getting in that. So we actually play your Buffalo Sabres on Monday. We have a day off in Detroit on Tuesday, and then we'll play the Wings on Wednesday. So I'll actually have a day off to hang out with my mom and some family and stuff. And it'll be nice. It'll be really, really cool because I've not been back home. I've not been to Detroit since, oh man, when was the last time I was there? I guess I was there back in July. So, but this past summer. So I've been home twice in the last 2 years. So this will now be the third time in the last 2 years that I will have been back home to Detroit.
Well, I hope you get to meet Everett.
I hope so too.
You will, and I'll tell you why, because he did make the trip to Seattle.
Yeah.
And this would be the one and only time he would ever be able to call a game against the Seattle Kraken. So he will be there. You know what? I've met him a few times too, and he's such a nice man. The only thing is I said to him a few years ago in Dallas when they came, and I think this is when I was still doing the Stars post game show, and I said, hey, I said, I just wanted to let you know, you've been a hero. I've been listening to you since I was a kid. He goes, no, you made me feel really old. I said, no. I said, you're still amazing. You're the great Rick Generette. And you know what? You think about that 50 some kids that are listening to you. Who have that, you know, they want to be NHL play-by-play guy someday, and they're listening to you thinking, man, hope I can be Everett Fitzhugh someday. And, you know, that's just one of those cool moments.
Yeah.
Nothing better when you meet a fan and they tell you how much they love listening to you, and I'm sure you got a lot of those people right now.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people come up to me and in that regard, but I think for me, what has made it even more special is the fact that I've had a lot of young Black kids and a lot of young Black broadcasters and some female broadcasters, members of historically underrepresented communities come up to me and say, I used to think that hockey wasn't for me. I used to think that I didn't belong in this game. And seeing you do what you do has made me believe it. And I cannot tell you how many of those messages that I've gotten. And it's cool. It's really humbling. And it's an awesome experience because growing up, I didn't have a lot of positive Black influences within the game of hockey to look up to, especially from a media perspective. There were a handful of players, which was awesome. That's how I got into hockey, because I saw 2 Black players on the same team. It was great. But to be able to have, kids who were in college, who were in high school, reach out to me and say, man, like I'm thinking of changing my major, or I'm involved in a journalism program at my school, and I covered my first hockey game the other day because I read your story. That's awesome. And I want more of that. And I think it's really cool to be able to have those experiences and to help grow the game in that capacity.
Well, Trevor Daley, when he played with Dallas, I remember he's a great guy, tremendous player, played with Dallas here early on in his career. And I remember he said, hey, one of my goals here is to bring more, African-American young kids into the game and teach them the game. And do you have any plans to get out in the community and see what you can do to kind of increase that in the Seattle area?
Yeah, so our organization, the One Roof Foundation, is the charitable arm of the Seattle Kraken. And our goal is aiming at ending youth homelessness, number one. Number two, going into these communities and bringing the game of hockey and bringing the message of the Seattle Kraken into these communities. And I've told our community folks, I said, you don't even have to ask me. Just tell me where and when to be there, and I'm there, because I believe so strongly in that. And Seattle is such a diverse community. We are such a diverse area. There are people from so many different walks of lives and backgrounds, races, religions, sexual orientations. We're a large transplant city as well. There's a lot of folks who aren't from Seattle who live here. I've met folks from Boston. I've met folks from California. I've met folks from all over the country who've been here for 10, 15, 30 years. So there are so many different people who live in this area. So for me to be a part of an organization that's committed to getting as many of those different people under our roof and into our games and into our facility is special. And I want to be known as somebody who did everything that they could to let people know, no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, no matter your ability level, your race, your sexual orientation, religion, whatever it is. I want people to know that you belong in our game. There is a place for you within our sport, your voice, your fandom, whatever it is, it belongs. You belong. And that is something that I really am just so proud of our organization in the way that they are so committed to the community.
Everett Fitzhugh, the radio voice of the Seattle Kraken. Give us a rundown on your day. What do you do? When do you start? You go to the office every day? Obviously, practice is always a part of it, but give us the rundown.
So, it's a little different. It's a little different than back in the Coast days. And if any of our ECHL colleagues are listening, I want to apologize in advance for shining light on how the other half lives. But you go to practice. Usually we'll skate about 10:30. I'm a rink rat, so I love getting to the rink early. So I'll probably be there for 9:30. For a 10:30 practice. You've got people to talk to. And then once that's over, there's usually some type of media responsibility that I have, phone calls or interviews with station affiliates, things like that. Our partnership team is awesome. They're always having me meet with folks and going places, which I love doing. Our social team will need help. So it's kind of just as needed. There's always a bunch of special projects here and there. And then you're doing your game prep. The game prep doesn't change. The way that I prepare has changed a little bit. I've started using a different system of things and all that. I have found that it works. But you're preparing for the next game. And for me, now that my number one job is play-by-play, is broadcasting, it's interesting because you don't have a lot of the other community relations and sales and all the other stuff that you had to do at other levels and other jobs. So now my job is 100% broadcasting. So my job is to watch hockey. When I'm done with this interview, I'm going to turn on the Blackhawks game from last week, and then I'm going to watch that because that's who we have coming up next, right? So I get paid to watch hockey, and it's really, really cool to be able to say that. But I don't want folks out there thinking that broadcasters, we just show up and call games. It's still a lot of work. It's still a lot of sacrifice. But the higher you get, you're still busy. And there's still stuff to do, but you're busy in a different way.
Come on, Fitzy, you got to miss doing the game notes, right, man? I mean, that's just every broadcaster. It's like, the game notes.
I'm not going to lie to you. The game notes, I do kind of miss doing the game notes simply because if I wanted to talk, I was the one doing the game notes. So that was kind of my outline for a broadcast. And I think a few folks started to catch on a little bit, but the game notes, hey, what are we talking about today? Well, did you read the game notes? That's what's going on tonight. So I do kind of miss compiling the stats a little bit because when you do it, they just kind of get ingrained in you a little bit more because you're writing them every day and all that stuff. But no, I do miss that aspect a little bit, the PR side of things for sure.
Hello, Americans fans. Former American defenseman Nolan Dakota here with a message from Fast Signs in Plano. Both Plano locations are independently owned and operated by myself and are proud partners with the Americans for this season and the Americans Drive for 5. At Fast Signs, we understand the burden this difficult time presents on businesses, and helping you to solve your changing visual communication and business challenges is our commitment. Mention this ad when you call Fast Signs in Plano for 10% off your next order. Fast Signs, more than fast, more than signs.
How about the boys in the locker room? And that's, obviously, a whole different ball game for you, so to speak. Do the guys call you Fitzy? Because we know in hockey, it's a nickname world. How do the players treat you?
So the players have been awesome. Players have been great. The one thing that I will say about the NHL is there is a little bit more of a separation just because, you're at the NHL. In Cincinnati, there was 5 of us on staff. It was our head coach, assistant coach, trainer, equipment guy, broadcaster. That was it. That was the staff. So, but now, there's so many people around and guys are so focused, but, because my job is just broadcasting, there really isn't that other need to go in the locker room. I honestly haven't gotten to know too many of the players. But the ones that I do know, they call me Fitz. They'll call me Fitzy. They'll call me E. John Forsland calls me Big E, which is really, really cool. I like that. But no, the guys are nice. There's not a single bad personality in that locker room. There is a lot of charisma. There is a lot of passion and character in that locker room. So it's a fun room to be a part of for sure.
How about the travel? I mean, we know especially with you guys, it was a lot of busing because we had so many people close, and now you're jumping on these jets. And what's the travel like?
Travels, you know what, Tommy? I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I called my wife after our preseason trip up to Calgary and Edmonton, and I said, we are never flying commercial ever again. We're just not doing it. No, man, the travel's been great. We've got a great crew. We've got private jet or chartered jet, I should say. The meals are unbelievable. The hotels are unbelievable. The travel's awesome. Usually there are very few times in the ECHL when I was on a road trip and I was in bed before 2 a.m. There have been times here when I've gotten back home by 11:30 in the game. You know what I mean? The game's over at 9:30 and you're back home in your bed before midnight. So that is pretty cool.
Per diem's got to be better.
What's up?
Then the per diem has got to be better.
The per diem is pretty nice too. The per diem is pretty nice. But I will say this, Tommy, and I'm not blowing smoke, and I genuinely mean this. You do miss the fun times of the ECHL and of the minors. Obviously traveling on planes and getting salmon and steak on a plane is awesome, and staying in 4 or 5 star hotels is great. But there's something to be said about the 20-hour bus rides to Allen, Texas. There's something to be said about getting into an argument as a staff because one person wants to go to Outback Steakhouse and the other one wants to go to Longhorn. You know what I mean? There's something to be said about those times. And I have found myself thinking a lot about my time in Cincy and even in Youngstown when I was in the USHL. And the fun that we had together. Not saying that we're not having fun here. We're having a lot of fun up here. Don't worry. But you do miss those times. So yes, the travel is awesome, but it's not to say that, hey, every level has their quirks and their nuances and things like that. And I definitely, I do miss some of the ones that we had in the ECHL when I was in Cincy.
Well, I can tell you, we've only played each other a few times, but that trip to Cincinnati a few years ago, man, what a great host you were. Took us out to one of the best sports bars in Cincinnati.
Yep.
What was the name of that place again?
It was the Holy Grail, right across the street from Great American Ballpark where the Reds play. And I got to tell the story. So Tommy walks in and, there's all the memorabilia from all the old Reds teams there. There's jerseys, there's flags, there's baseballs, there's bats, there's everything. And then he was like, oh, it's like a little outfield wall over there. And I was like, that's actually the padding. They took the padding off of the Synergy field, the old stadium. They took the padding and they gave some of it to Holy Grail. So that's the actual outfield wall on that side of the bar. And Tommy's eyes lit up like a kid on Christmas. He went over there, got a picture with it. It was awesome. It was so cool.
Well, my mom's favorite baseball team was the Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah.
She loved the Big Red Machine.
Oh, yeah.
She loved George Foster. She loved Dan Grease and all those old names, Pete Rose. So, of course, I had to go to the Reds team store, and I bought myself a Pete Rose jersey.
Of course.
It was so nice. And hey, that would be the only time we really would get to hang out, not knowing that, a couple of years down the road, you would be heading on to the bigger and better times. And I know I had an interview with Joe Vavick from the league last week, and he talked about you and said, it's so great. We've had so many people that have, moved on to bigger and better things, and mentioned Fitzhugh, and I thought, that's just so cool. I mean, this is what I mean about Everett Fitzhugh. He's not going to change. What you see right now is who he is. It doesn't matter. When I called him to ask him about doing this interview, He said, absolutely. You
Yeah.
tell me when. He was a great host that night. We hung out with our trainer too, Jordan Dutton.
Oh yeah.
Who went with us. So, hey, I miss you. But the great thing is I can listen to you now on our off nights. Like you said, tune into Sirius XM radio.
Yeah.
If you haven't heard Everett ever call a game before, please do. And it's phenomenal. And don't change, man, because the one thing I love about you is what you see is what you get. A lot of times
Absolutely.
when people move on to bigger and better things, they change.
Yeah.
But just always be Fitzy, and I know you will.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. And I'm looking forward to getting back to Allen. I know we played Dallas. We have an off day in Dallas coming up this year. I don't know what your schedule is, but minimally, you and I are going to grab lunch if you're in town. Hopefully the Americans have a game and I'll be able to get back out and catch some ECHL hockey again. But yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it.
What would be great is we could get the Kraken to come up and practice at our rink instead of the one of those Dr. Pepper Star Centers somewhere around the Metroplex. That would be awesome.
That would be cool. That would be cool. Show the Allen American fans, hey, this is your affiliate. This is the big club. I think that would be awesome. That'd be really cool.
Well, use your poll. Ron Francis now. See what you can do to make that happen. I can't thank you enough. How's married life, by the way?
Married life's great, man. Married life's great. Shelly is wonderful. She works for a winery here up in Seattle as the operations manager there. So she's got a career that she really enjoys. Still giving me a hard time as always. Keep me humble, keep me honest, but that's exactly why I love her, right? You need a good woman to keep you humble and keep you honest, and she's the best woman. So married life is going well. We actually just had our wedding. So we got married last October, but because of the pandemic and all that, we had to postpone the actual ceremony. So we just had our wedding back in September, had the honeymoon. It's great. So we finally got to, experience and share that and our love with our families and friends. So that was really, really cool. And, things didn't change. Her last name changed, and my filing status on my taxes changed. That's about it. We're still crazy about each other, and it's still a very, very fun ride.
Well, that's awesome. Again, happy Thanksgiving, early Thanksgiving to you and the family, and enjoy time with your sweet mama when you go home, coming up here soon. And we'll talk to you down the road. But we like to say around here, let's get cracking.
Get cracking. Tommy, a pleasure. Fans, Allen American fans, great speaking with you again, and looking forward to meeting you guys, and hopefully we'll be interacting more. We'll see some matriculation throughout the years. Maybe we'll see a future Allen American or two in a Kraken uniform. I can't wait for that.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, the voice of your Seattle Kraken, the one and only Everett Fitzhugh on the Red, White, and You podcast.
Get sunshine for the whole squad at Tropical Smoothie Cafe.